Hey folks, it's Taugrim. This is episode 104 in our road to Unicum, and I'm going to show you guys my UI settings today. I asked in the prior episode, and quite a number of you said you'd be interested in seeing this, so let's talk about some of the settings that I strongly recommend, starting with the view range indicators on the minimap. You want to have all three of these checkboxes checked. This will show up to 3 circles on your minimap. If you have a view range of less than 445 meters, that will show up as a green ring, and the white ring is the max modding range of 445 meters. So that's the maximum distance at which one tank can spot another. And then the outer yellow circle is called the draw circle. That is the maximum distance at which tanks will be rendered, i.e. you can see them. Now you can still shoot tanks that are outside of the draw circle, but obviously you'll have to make an educated guess because you won't be able to see them. This is these settings of view range indicators, number one thing that I recommend. Another thing that I recommend are setting the expanded minimap features to always. And what this will do is when a tank has been spotted and then drops from being spotted, you'll get an indicator on your map showing their last spotted location. It makes it a lot easier to track where tanks are, and then based on that you can make reasonable guesses as far as where they might be. One feature that I've heard good things about, I don't know if this is true, but this is what I heard, is the horizontal stabilization in sniper mode. So when you're in sniper mode, if you're driving over bumpy terrain, if you don't have this checked, it can make your gun reticle bounce up and down, or like if you're kind of going over a small bump. And so if you check this, it'll keep your aiming reticle flat, which makes it a lot more usable. And then some of these notifications here, like showing the direction of the minimap. I believe this is when you're aiming your turret, this will show the direction of the minimap that you're facing with a line. So that's pretty helpful. Okay, so let's talk about the aiming reticle. Now the indicator, this is always in the very middle of your map, and this is important if you're trying to turn auto aim on. You can see that I've got the A-shaped IV, and the reason why I've got this turned on is primarily just because it's very visible. Right, it's the most, to me it's the most visible because it's that bright green line color. And then for the aiming circle, what's really important, the gun marker, is I've got the armor penetration indicator turned on. So what this will do will calculate in real time the difference between the penetration of your current ammo selection against the tank, taking into account distance as well as angle of your opponent. So you always want to have the armor penetration turned on for your gun marker. And then I also find it helpful to have the load indicator as well. Okay, now in sniper mode, you'll notice that I go to a dot. Now I find that if I'm not in sniper mode, the dot is a little bit hard to see. That's why in arcade mode I've got these larger crosshairs just for visibility. But for sniper mode, I've been using the dot that's very precise. You're going to be zoomed in anyway. So, and then of course, turn on that armor penetration indicator. It used to be a while back, the armor penetration indicator didn't take into account the angle of your opponent. And now with the built-in UI functionality, it does that for you. Now, obviously, there is no substitute for taking some time and hanging out on tanks.gg and going through the armor models to learn the layouts. But that being said, if you're facing a tank in game that you've never seen before, the armor penetration indicator, the red, yellow, green color of that little dot, will help you make a good guess as far as where you should be firing on your target. Okay, the markers, I have pretty much everything turned on, right? And so obviously I want to see a visual of the tank. That's helpful just to see it, the tier, the vehicle model, and then these last two things I think are really important. Seeing the name of the player so you know who you're shooting at, as well as the health indicator. Now, you don't have to show the health indicator, but I find that visuals like this make it very intuitive as opposed to just looking at a number. This is totally different. That looks like he's about 2/3 full. Now, obviously, you can do the math in real time and say 985 out of 1500, yeah, that's about 65%, but the visual says it all, right? And then the other thing too is sometimes people will do things like have the percent hit points. I find this enormously unhelpful. If I've got a gun with an alpha of 320 or 490, I want to know whether I can one-shot. And I'd have to sit here and guess, okay, how much hit points does that Tiger have currently, and then what's the max? Like, I'm not going to bother to do that in real time. Like, that's just stupid, right? And sometimes people do the hit points left. That's fine as long as you've got the hit points showing. I think that's the most important thing, and I like seeing the full HP total, even if they've lost it. And then obviously, once you've destroyed somebody, you don't need to see their hit point indicator. I still keep things telling me which player it is so I can make mental notes as far as who's alive and who's dead. Obviously, you don't have to do this, and where they died. I find that helpful. And then the last set of stuff I'll talk about here are the battle notifications. In my opinion, you want to, turn these things on. You want to show things around, the amount of damage that's being done. The indicators, which I believe show the direction of fire, if I'm correct. Yeah, it shows the directional indicator so that you can get an idea of where the tank is that's shooting at you, as well as things like the animation to make it visible. And then the battle events, I've got everything turned on, right? So this is the stuff that shows up in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. I find this stuff enormously helpful to know what I'm blocking, what I've shot at, when I've tracked stuff, etc. Right? Really good information. And then the log here, this basically shows you your summaries for what you've done in terms of damage caused, blocked, assisted, and how much you've done. So I think, these are fun mostly. I find if you're making videos for people to watch, having these things turned on so someone can get a sense of how well you're progressing or contributing throughout the battle, this is really helpful. So those are some of my favorite things. I'm going to mention a couple things. Some of you pointed out to me years ago about my mouse sensitivity being too high, and I actually didn't know what that was. I don't play first-person shooters, and so I've been gradually decreasing the sensitivity. What this means is it takes a larger mouse movement to move my aiming reticle. And so if you see a lot of the professional gamers for first-person shooters or games like Overwatch, etc., they've got their mouse sensitivity set low, and they tend to make broad sweeping movements with their mouse. Now I am a bit lazy, so I don't turn it totally down, but I found this to be pretty helpful. And then I'll lastly note a couple things. So one, you guys have probably heard, I've said for MMOs that the default of forward, backward, left, right of WSAD is just stupid, right? Because you're either having to move your hand to the left one set of keys in order to do that, which takes you out of the natural typing position, or you're moving forward and backwards with your ring finger, which makes no sense. Forward and backwards should be with your middle finger. That makes sense. Right should be with your R or F. Left should be W or S. I don't want to talk too much about this because that's a much longer topic. I will also note that I changed the reticle mode switching to right mouse button. And this is actually something that I did pick up from first-person shooters years and years ago. That used to be the default setting for a lot of games, just right reticle mode to switch in and out. And then I use auto aim using the middle mouse button. If I recall correctly, the default settings in this game, the auto aim is the right mouse button, but I find you use the left and right mouse buttons so much, you should put those on functions where you're using them all the time. Auto aim I only occasionally use, so using the middle mouse button is fine, and you don't actually have to have for example, a disables. If you have the auto aim mapped to a key, you hit that key a second time, it'll actually disable the auto aim. Let me see if there's anything else here that I think is worthwhile. No, I think that's pretty much it as far as controls. Okay, I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know your questions and comments and settings that you like to have turned on and why. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.